Rajkummar is a national award-winning actor who can create depth beyond the script. The screenplay makes Srikanth's many accomplishments feel largely painless. What I was most looking forward to was the humor and the irreverence that the trailer promised. Srikanth is a straightforward, earnest, somewhat plodding highlights reel based on the life of Srikanth Bolla, a visually impaired industrialist who refused to let his circumstances define his dreams. Srikanth was born sightless into hard-scrabble conditions in rural Andhra Pradesh. People advised his parents to kill the baby because that seemed like the most charitable course of action. Thankfully, they couldn't bring themselves to do it. Srikanth, determined and defiant, excelled at studies, sports, and eventually business. His life became testament to his belief that visually impaired people don't need pity, they need equal opportunity. It's a rousing story which, like so many Hindi biopics, has translated into middling cinema. Not because of lack of trying on the part of Rajkummar Rao, who plays Srikanth. Rajkummar is a national award-winning actor who can create depth beyond the script. He can bring characters alive without revealing the strain. Here too, he commits internally and externally. The mannerisms, the twitches, they stay consistent, and he locates Srikanth's stubborn bone, which allows him to excel, but also leads him to act selfishly and foolishly. Props to director Tushar Hiranandani, writers Sumit Purohit and Jagdeep Sidhu, and to the real-life Srikanth for not shying away from showing his mistakes.
आप हमारे चक्कर में मत फंसना, आपको बेच के कहाँ जाएंगे हम?
Bollywood biopics tend to be one-note hagiographies, but Srikanth shows us where our hero tripped. I wish the rest of the film had been as daring. The narrative sticks to the straight and narrow paths, skipping from one accomplishment to the next. The mood stays mostly sunny. This is aided by the repeated use of Papa Kehte Hain. That lilting Anand Milan song from Amir Khan's debut film Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak might be 36 years old, but it's still effervescent and upbeat. Of course, in that film, the song had an ironic undercurrent because the story, an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, ends in tragedy. Raj and Rashmi go against their families and eventually die for their love. The 2.0 version of Papa Kehte Hain is more literal, especially that line, Bada Naam Karega. There is almost nothing that Srikanth isn't good at. He can compute numbers like Shakuntala Devi. He plays cricket at a national level. When he goes to court against the educational system, he wins. When IIT can't find a place for him, MIT does. When he starts playing baseball, he hits a home run on his first ball. And his feats are so impressive that he meets a lovely, loving woman online and they come together with enviable ease. All of which might be true, but the screenplay makes Srikanth's many accomplishments feel largely painless. When Srikanth is a child, we see visuals of him being tied to a tree while his parents work. We see the meanness with which other children treat him. But these hardships are dealt with superficially. When Srikanth faces a challenge, like being told that colleges won't allow him to choose the science stream, it's overcome in a scene or two. We get little sense of his internal rage, his frustration. He's supported wholeheartedly by a teacher. Devika, played with the requisite compassion by Jyotika. Srikanth seems to be Devika's sole mission in life, and he just keeps going from one success to another. The first hour has little space for drama or despair. The love story especially plays out like a fairy tale. At one point, Srikanth and Swati, played by Alaya F., drive across America. She's just arrived in the US and recently learned how to drive, but nothing even remotely unsettling happens. They come across this gang of tough-looking bikers who proceed to take photos with them and escort them to their next destination like a presidential cavalcade. In interviews, the real-life Srikanth has talked about how challenging the first few months in the US were for him. He had to adjust to the cold, to the food. He said that for the first month, all he ate was French fries and chicken fingers. But the real Srikanth seems to have zero culture shock. The film acquires more shades in the second hour when hubris kicks in. As Srikanth becomes more successful, he also becomes more competitive with his partner Ravi, played by Sharad Kelkar. This dynamic between a brilliant but insecure visually impaired person and an able-bodied person who's trying to support him makes for great drama. But again, the script doesn't render it with enough substance. These traits in Srikanth's personality aren't seeded earlier, so it just feels like this sudden flip. And his flirtation with politics seems just as random. What I was most looking forward to was the humor and the irreverence that the trailer promised. In Hindi cinema, visually impaired characters have traditionally been pitiable victims. A few decades ago, they would gain or lose sight with a blow to the head. You remember Nirupa Roy in Amar Akbar Anthony? Tushar takes a fun dig at this in Srikanth. There are other flashes of mischief. In one scene, Srikanth playfully reveals how the administrators are also siphoning off funds. But the narrative doesn't lean in enough into this humor, and throughout the background music and the dialogue underline what we're supposed to feel. And if it's still not clear enough, a character says of Srikanth, "We only have sight, but he has vision." I wish the film had brought this out with more force and more flair. You can see Srikanth at a theatre near you.